These days, people like to say that there is no good anime out there. Well, I can understand the sentiment. Well, with there indeed being a lot of mediocre or outright terrible anime each season, I still think that people who truly believe this are nuts. I mean, not only do we have a ton of great anime this past season, like Mob Psycho 100 Season 2, Dororo, and Kaguya-sama Love is War, but I think that the anime like the one I'm going to review today, The Promised Neverland, clearly shows that the anime industry still has plenty of life in it. Before I jump into my review though, I'd love to know your thoughts on the series. Did you love it, hate it, or something else entirely? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. With that out of the way, let's jump in. Based on the currently ongoing manga of the same name, The Promised Neverland, or at least its first season, is a 12-episode anime about a group of kids who discover that their perfect lives are not at all what they seem to be. Set in the year 2045, we are introduced to Gracefield House, an orphanage where 38 children live together with their caretaker and mother figure, Isabella. The main character of the story, Emma, is an 11-year-old girl who acts as an older sister to the other children and enjoys her peaceful life at Gracefield House. Along with her friends Norman and Ray, Emma is allowed to basically do as she pleases as long as she follows the one rule to never wander too far from the orphanage. The reason for this rule becomes clear when a young girl named Connie gets adopted and is escorted by Isabella to the main gate to meet her new family. Noticing that Connie has left behind her beloved stuffed bunny, Emma and Norman rush to the gate. However, when they get there, they see a horrific sight that, well, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil what it is, makes them realize that their whole life is a lie and that none of the orphans who have left the house have been going to happy homes. Worse yet, Isabella, who they had always thought of as a loving mother, is in on everything and basically grooming the children for their terrible fates. Running back to the orphanage in a panic, Emma and Norman realize that all their lives are in danger and that they need to come up with a plan to escape before another child gets adopted. So begins a psychological game of cat and mouse between a group of kids looking to earn their freedom and the manipulative woman who refuses to let them go. Now, when it comes to the winter 2019 anime season, I would probably say that this series was my favorite. I mean, I seriously think that everything about this show is solid. However, in order to not make this review too long, I will only focus on a few things that I thought made the show great. Number one, I love the way the show always keeps you guessing and on the edge of your seat. From the moment that we, along with Emma and Norman, learn the truth about how this world works, the show is a non-stop thriller in which you can never be too sure what is going to happen. Just when it seems like the kids have finally figured something out and come out on top, there's always another curveball to keep things interesting. And that's not just the basis for some episodes, but every episode, with the different surprises always leaving me hungry for more as I follow the show each week. If you enjoy shows like, say, Death Note, in which individuals are constantly battling to outthink each other, this show will not disappoint. Another thing that I enjoyed about the show was the characters. When it comes to the main cast, whether you're looking at Emma the selfless optimist, Norman the genius strategist, or Ray the quiet brooding one, I think that each of them is really cool and likable for their own reasons. Emma, for instance, is quite emotional, and while that may at first sound like a flaw, especially in a world as dangerous as the one she is living in, it is how much she cares for those around her and how much she is willing to sacrifice to save those she cares for that makes you empathize and root for her. Sure, she may be seemingly too optimistic for her own good, but at the same time, she is the one that gives hope to the others and inspires them to keep fighting. The main trio, and to an extent some of the other children, are great in this way, where they each bring something to the table with their unique skills and personalities. With that being said, I do want to discuss the opposition for a moment and talk about Isabella, who is truly frightening as a villain. The way she absolutely dominates every single shot she is in, and the tension she causes whenever she is around, is incredible. Especially since she is just a normal woman, not some supernatural entity or anything. However, I think the fact that she is so real is what makes her frightening. I mean, this is a woman who raises these kids up with a smile on her face, knowing full well what is actually in store for them. Appearing to be extremely loving and affectionate to the children, it is crazy just how manipulative, cunning, and detached to their tragic fates she is. I don't want to go into further details in order to not spoil anything, but the way all of the characters, both good and bad, are written and brought to life is quite a sight to behold. Finally, I love just how well this story was adapted to anime form. Though I am not a reader of the manga because at this point I'm quite invested and don't want to spoil myself on anything, I did go back and look at some of it after certain episodes and wow, the people in charge of this do a great job. While the manga is nothing to scoff at, being able to see everything from sad to scary and even disturbing moments in motion and with the accompanying voice acting and music is on a whole other level. And not only do they do an excellent job with stuff that comes directly from the source material, but even stuff that is anime original is great. Like, trust me, if you watch the show and get to the last episode, the way things go down is different from the manga, and yet, I love the creative decision the creators took, as it gives more weight and emotion to events. Now, are there negatives to the show? Yes. And the big one that I want to talk about is that sometimes the way the characters act is unrealistic. While it is made very clear from the get-go that these are some very smart kids and pretty mature for their age, the way they handle everything is almost too perfect. I mean, while they do break down when they learn that their lives are a lie, I'm pretty sure it would take anyone, especially a child, much longer to come to terms with all these new revelations that they have just been exposed to. And as for all this genius planning and scheming they do behind Isabella's back, how many 11-year-olds do you know that can think at that level? Likewise, even an adult like Isabella is guilty of this, because at one point, where we learn some stuff about her to show why she is the way she is, it just raises more questions about why someone in her position would still act the way she did. Yeah, it makes sense for the purpose of moving the plot along, but it can be a bit distracting when you stop to think about it. That aside though, I still think that The Promised Neverland is a great show and one that I would definitely recommend to anyone. With an exciting story that keeps you coming back for more, and an interesting mix of mystery, horror, and psychological thriller not usually seen in shonen anime, I would definitely call this the anime of the season. All 12 episodes of Season 1 are out now, and with the recent announcement of Season 2 coming out next year, I'd say this is as good a time as ever to catch up. But hey, that's just my opinion. And remember, don't take anything I say too seriously. After all, I'm just the Wannabe Reviewer. Thanks for watching.